Right, well, I think I'll make a start now, and I'll ask Sarah if she's can let other people in as they come in and admit them from the waiting room. That'd be really helpful. Thanks very much. So hello everyone, and thanks very much for joining us for the first Winchester Bid Forum of 2021. I hope you're all doing okay despite the difficult start to the year. But let's hope the situation improves as the year goes on and the NHS vaccination rollout progresses. So my name is Paul Spencer. I'm the Executive Director for Winchester Business Improvement District, often referred to as a BID. And firstly, if I can make you all aware that we're recording this meeting, so other BID members who cannot join us will be able to watch it back on our YouTube channel. And we'll also share the slides afterwards too. So if you don't want to be recorded, if you can turn off your camera and your microphone, and you can still listen in to the presentations and the discussion. And also, I think everyone's already on mute, so that will help us with the feedback we sometimes get on Zoom when we have meetings with lots of attendees. Please make use of the chat function. You can put questions in there throughout, and we'll put them to us and our team and our speakers as well. But also, there may be an opportunity to unmute and have a chat, as the session goes on as well. So we hold the Winchester Bid Forums regularly throughout the year, and they provide opportunities for bid member businesses, stakeholders, partner organisations to all come together to hear updates from Winchester Bid, but also to hear about other projects and activities in the city which are of interest to the local business community. So I'm going to share my screen now so you can see our slides. I'll just be a moment bringing those up. So hopefully you can all see this now. And today we're going to be giving our quarterly update and providing a summary of the BID's activities since the last forum in October, as well as our plans for the next few months. And this will be followed by an update from Andrew Costello, who's the service lead for tourism and economy at Winchester City Council, and to talk to us about the council's support for businesses, and particularly focusing on the new business support programme funded by the Reopening High Street Safely Fund, which is offering free guidance and support with COVID-19 safety, digital marketing, e-commerce and business recovery. And we also have Gavin McWhirter from Digital Islands, who are providing this service and who's joining us this evening as well. And we'll also be able to hear a bit about the virtual High Street project and also the new hardship fund. And then we'll end with an update on Central Winchester Regeneration. Many of you will have participated in the recent public consultation. Some of the findings from that consultation were presented at the Council's Open Forum event, which took place a couple of weeks ago. And the head of programme, Varian Lyons, is joining us to give us a brief update. So thanks very much to Andrew, Gavin, and to Varian for joining us, and we look forward to hearing from you shortly. And here's the agenda. So many of you will be familiar with the work of Winchester Bid. We were first established in 2008. We're an independent business-funded and business-led organisation working with over 700 businesses in the city centre. There's now over 320 bids across the country, and there are also bids in towns and cities across the world, sometimes known as business improvement zones or areas, where businesses have voted to work together to collectively invest in improvements in their locality, which are additional to those provided by local statutory bodies. So I'd like to say a big thank you to all of the businesses that have continued to pay into the bid. These are challenging times, and it's these businesses which is making it possible for us to continue delivering projects and services to support the business community and to help make Winchester a better place to be. You can see on this slide the cover of our business plan 2018 to 2023. And our work falls under 4 key themes, which are positioning and promoting Winchester, managing and enhancing the cityscape, supporting business growth, and influencing and inspiring change. Further information, as always, is available on our website. The 4 key themes appear on the website. You can click on them and read all about the different projects being delivered under each of these themes and to find out more about them. There's also sections where you can find out more about the bid, how it was first established, the geographical area that we cover, information about the team, the board of directors, and also the bid's governance and finances. And you can also download the business plan here and link through to our social media platforms. So if you'd like to take a look, then please visit winchesterbid.co.uk. However, one of the best ways to stay up to date with our latest projects and services is through the e-news letter, which is fortnightly, and you can sign up to this using the form on the homepage of our website or by contacting a member of the team. So we operate through a not-for-profit organisation called Winchester City Centre Partnership Limited, which reports to a board of directors who provide a range of skills and experience and represent a variety of business sectors within the city. And the delivery team is made up of 3 full-time and 2 part-time members of staff, and the team are present on the call this evening, as well as some of our board members as well. So on the next couple of slides, I've included some images and graphics posted on our social media platforms over the past few months. And we're very active on social media, so do follow us, and you can find out all about what we get up to. So what have we been doing since the last bid forum in October? I'll give you some of the highlights. We continue to share updates from local businesses every day with the public via the Hello Winchester hashtag. So for a story share on Facebook or Instagram or a retweet on Twitter, please use the hashtag Hello Winchester and also tag Winchester Bid, and we'll share your content with our audiences. We continue to share our fortnightly e-news updates with everyone on our mailing list. And of course, this includes the latest support for businesses during the pandemic. And we've also got a dedicated coronavirus webpage, which is updated regularly as announcements are made. And there's lots of useful links to help businesses access the latest guidance and support there. In the second half of October, we installed the winter hanging baskets. Our programme of additional street cleaning was ongoing to help ensure the city centre is always looking its best. Each year we clear around 10,000 metres squares of pavements in the bid area of grime and chewing gum. In October, we were in lighter restrictions. We were in Tier 2 restrictions then, and we were able to organise a Spooky Winch word hunt. And this was a citywide Halloween-themed activity for members of the public to enjoy, which encourages foot flow around the city centre. There were 178 businesses which took part, and 251 small groups and families which completed the trail. And also in October, we published our 36th quarterly Winchester Business Barometer report, and all of the reports, including the latest and past reports, are available to access through our website. As we approach November, we had the sad news that we'd be entering a second national lockdown. The team continued to be available to offer guidance and support remotely, and the bid ranges continue to be in the city centre to keep watch on closed business premises, but also to offer assistance and reassurance to those open for essential goods and services. Our Support Your Local Businesses campaign has been ongoing since the start of the pandemic, online, on social media and in the local press. This has been important in helping to keep the public informed about the different ways they can continue to support local businesses as we move in and out of different restrictions. It was the 2nd year anniversary of the launch of the Winchester Bid Rangers scheme, and you can see a picture of me there with my lovely 2 balloon with our Rangers, Graham and Josh. One of the measures of the impacts of this scheme is the recovery of items stolen from Winchester businesses. And they've helped to recover over £31,000 worth of stolen goods, which have been taken from local businesses by offenders over the past 2 years. Preparations for the festive season were very different in 2020. The Christmas windows started to appear in November as businesses started to prepare for December and the return to Tier 2 restrictions. And we were able to continue with the installation of the city's festive lighting scheme and Christmas trees to try and get Winchester ready and looking its festive best for December. But we had a rather different Christmas lights switch on. Sadly, no stage, no big event, no crowds. But we did switch on the lights to help bring some comfort and joy at a very difficult time for everyone. And we shared some magical video footage of the lights in the city online, including some great drone footage of the Christmas lights from above the city. As we moved into December, because we couldn't organise the usual Christmas lights switch on event, which brings thousands of people to the Broadway and the High Street to celebrate the start of the festive season, we wanted to do something different to help raise people's spirits. The Winchester Christmas Nutcracker Trail was launched when we returned to Tier 2 restrictions and when business could reopen again to the public. This was a self-guided, socially distanced outdoors activity, encouraging members of the public to discover more of Winchester during the festive season and hopefully come across some new businesses along the way, which they may not have visited before. We had 273 small groups and families that completed the trail, and there was a hamper prize up for grabs full of goodies from local businesses. We picked a winner at random using a random number generator, and it was a wonderful lady who is a key worker for the NHS, and she completed the trail with her grandchildren, and so a very deserving winner of that prize. There were celebrations for Small Business Saturday. We provided free weekend parking for bid members at Tower Street car park during December. We supported an extended park and ride service, as well as temporary electronic information screens at key entry points into the city as traffic and footfall picked up in the lead up to Christmas. Following several online consultation sessions with bid members, we submitted the bid's response to the Central Winter Regeneration consultation, and we'll hear more on this later from Varian Lyons. The winners, the finalists and winners of the 2020 Winchester Business Excellence Awards were announced, and we received a huge number of entries again this year, which was amazing to see. There are lots of examples of business which have adapted to the challenges of the pandemic with real innovation to help continue to serve their customers and clients, and also to help out in the community. So it was great to be able to end the year with some celebration there. At the end of December, we submitted evidence for the renewal of our British Bids accreditation and expect to hear back from them soon. And we also had an independent review carried out by the Institute of Place Management, and we were one of the first bids in the UK, the third I believe, to be fully certified as meeting the Bid Foundation's new industry standards, which encourage transparency and responsible governance. Moving into January, and of course at the start of this year, we now find ourselves in lockdown number 3, and we're all anxiously awaiting the time when the vaccine programme has progressed far enough for society to start to slowly reopen again. We've been supporting the Bounce Back Better campaign, calling on government to provide further financial support for businesses in the new financial year. And I'm meeting with Steve Brine on Friday to see what I might be able to find out about the upcoming budget from the Chancellor on the 3rd of March. And one of the things that a lot of people are calling for, a lot of national organisations, is for more work around business rates, and also an extension of the business rates holiday for retail, leisure and hospitality. But we recently heard from Jessie Norman MP, Financial Secretary to the Treasury, suggest that local authorities should consider postponing their preparations for business rates billing until after the budget. So this is only speculation at this stage, but this does suggest that there will be some sort of announcement around business rates to be made on the 3rd of March. In January, we've been promoting our savings and advisory service for bid members, and we've published our 37th Winchester Business Barometer report. During 2020, we launched contactless donations and online donations for the Spare Change for Lasting Change scheme, which many of you will be familiar with. And this supports people experiencing homelessness in Winchester. And my colleague Jane Bastock revealed that the scheme had raised £2,270, which has now been shared between Trinity Winchester and the Winchester Church's Night Shelter. And last week we launched the new Love Local Business campaign in partnership with the Hampshire Chronicle, Local IQ and Winchester City Council. So what's coming up over the next few months? So we will continue to be available to offer guidance and support to businesses, and we will try and keep you informed about the latest COVID-19 updates as the situation changes and hopefully improves with time. Our bid ranges will continue to be in the city centre. They're CSAS accredited, SIA trained in first aid and mental health first aid. And they work very closely with the police, the city CCTV service and other agencies. The new Love Local Business campaign, partnership with the Bid Chronicle, Local IQ and City Council, as I mentioned, was launched last week. And this will be ongoing, and business will benefit from print and online media, including stories, profiles, news and information each week to highlight the business community, as well as the opportunity to access free and discounted advertising. And there's also the chance for the Winchester business to win a professional e-commerce website and 4 months of free advertising. So now, and as restrictions are lifted in time, it's more important than ever that we all do all we can to support our local businesses. And this is why we're working on this partnership to try and provide extensive coverage and exposure to the local business communities and the local press over the weeks and months ahead. We've got an online meeting coming up on the 22nd of February for independent businesses. We've ring-fenced funds for projects specifically to support independent businesses within Winchester City Centre. Key themes in previous years have included independence markets, area-specific events and projects, signage, marketing and PR, and digital. However, we want to hear more from independents about the types of support specifically they feel they need during 2021 that we might be able to assist with. And for any businesses that would like to attend, please drop me an email or one of my colleagues, and we'd love to have you join us for that meeting. That's on the 22nd of February at 10 AM. The city centre footfall counting sensors are being upgraded. We're also installing new signage in the high street to help direct people to the side streets. Phase 1 is expected to be installed in the next month, and then we will begin looking at a second phase as well. We're reviewing our savings and advisory service as well as our health and wellbeing scheme to explore opportunities to expand both of these. And this year's Winchester Business Excellence Awards will be launched in March. The next Sustainable Business Network webinar is taking place on the 5th of March, and this will focus on the topic of reducing food waste. And planning is underway for our seasonal campaign, our spring seasonal campaign. Although, of course, we're considering a couple of different options at the moment until we know more about what kind of public health restrictions will be in place in the spring. So that brings me to the end of our quarterly update, and thanks very much for listening to me there. We've got some time now for questions before we move on to the other presentations. So I'm going to close down my presentation now so I can see the chat box, see if we've got any questions in there. But also do feel free to unmute and ask if there's specific things you'd like to ask us about. Silence. Okay, perhaps I've given a lot of information there, but do feel free to come in later as we go on as well. And if you've got things which relate to the presentation I've just given, or things that you want to ask us about, other things to do with the bid, pop them into the chat at any time during the meeting, and we'll come back to that when there's gaps in between the presentations. So please do. And you can also, of course, contact us at any time afterwards as well. Phone, email, social media, whatever works for you. So from that then, I'll move on to the next presentation. So I'm going to introduce Andrew Costello, Service Lead for Tourism and Economy at Winchester City Council, and also Gavin McWhirter from Digital Islands. So I will hand over to you, Andrew. Thanks very much.
So as Paul said, I wanted to pick up a little bit on business grants, particularly the Hardship Fund, talk to you a little bit about the Virtual High Street initiative that the City Council is looking to be implementing, and also more significantly our business support programme, our new business support programme, for which kindly Gavin McWhirter from Digital Islands has joined us this evening to talk a little bit about. So going to the top of the agenda, in terms of business support grants, you will all be familiar with the fact that Winchester City Council, along with all local authorities across the country, have been very busy mobilising business grants directly to those businesses most affected by the pandemic since sort of March, April time of last year. And in that time, Winchester City Council has released over £35 million of funding to businesses across the district through 11 different schemes through that period of time, and the work still continues as well. One of those schemes is the Additional Restrictions Grant, which is currently operating. That current window closes on the 12th of February, so the end of this week. And that is for businesses that have either been mandated to close or can demonstrate a 30% income impact on their income that sit within our priority sectors of retail, hospitality and leisure. And further information can be found on that on the additional restrictions grant tab on our business pages on the website. But also as part of the funding that we have received from government, we have ring-fenced an amount of that funding for what we're calling a hardship fund. We are very aware that despite the funding, the grants that have been made available via central government, there are still an awful lot of businesses that are still struggling, and even businesses that have been eligible for funding are still being severely impacted and still at significant risk of closure. We're also aware that there are businesses that aren't eligible for any of the funding as well. So this hardship fund has been set up to try and mop up as many of those businesses as it can. And as I said, it is essentially for those businesses that have been severely impacted and are at risk of closure. The application opportunity will start this Friday and will be open until the fund is spent, or until we come out of the current national restrictions regime that we are in at the moment. And applications will be considered on a case-by-case basis, and applicants will be required to put forward a business case and evidence accordingly. We will be giving priority to those organisations that contribute significantly to their local economy, their local community, businesses that will be difficult to replace, businesses that they are the only one type of business in the local area, and also businesses that directly benefit Winchester residents. And we will be giving consideration also to the number of employees that are within those organisations as well. And as I said, the priority sectors will remain as retail, hospitality and leisure. As we know, those have been significantly impacted. Attractions and events, performing and visual arts organisations, and also preschool childcare sector as well. So as I said, that fund will open on Friday. It will be again on our business pages under a separate hardship fund tab that you can find on the Winchester City Council website. And we also will be carrying the story in our regular business bulletins that we send out as well. So then moving on from funding, but partly some of the funding that we have received, we are looking at a district-wide e-commerce platform, essentially for independent businesses. And this platform will be funded from the Recover High Street Safely fund grants that funds that we were able to secure during the course of last year. And the thinking that we are having around this area, we are very aware that a lot of particularly independent businesses didn't used to have a online presence. During this pandemic, that's exacerbated that requirement, and a lot of businesses have transferred and adjusted their business models to have an online presence. There are still quite a few businesses that don't have an online presence. We're also minded of the impact to the high street that was already happening before this pandemic, and indeed has exacerbated that situation as well. So we are currently looking into the opportunity for Winchester City Council to fund for the first 6 months a virtual high street platform aimed at independents and independent businesses that are based on the high street in neighbourhood shopping areas, or also rurally located as well. It will provide an opportunity for businesses that either already have a strong online presence, an alternative, an additional route to market, but it will also offer opportunities for businesses that don't have an online presence for a low cost, low investment opportunity to explore that side of their business and that opportunity to reach the market. And we're going through, or we're just about to start a procurement process in order to seek a platform provider in order to offer that programme to all of our independent businesses within those key sectors across the whole district. And of course, what it will do is offer consumers the opportunity to purchase from independents collectively as well from across the district. And we're also looking at the opportunity to secure a delivery mechanism whereby consumers can actually order from a number of different independent stores and have delivery coordinated and in one delivery in one go through a number of hub and spoke mechanisms across the district. So as I said, we will be looking to fund that for businesses for the first 6 months, which will cover the initial investment, the launch, the building of the platform, and the ongoing fees. We will certainly make sure that all businesses are aware of what the ongoing fees will be post the first 6 months that we are involved with the scheme. But part of the procurement process and part of the spec will be that we require a provider to guarantee that the platform is self-sustaining from 6 months on, both for the consumer and for the businesses involved, and that any ongoing fees are maintained at a minimal and competitive level. So that sort of covers the virtual high street. I'll give you opportunity to ask questions maybe at the end. And then the other, quite a few significant pieces of work happening at the moment. Another piece of work that we have just initiated as well. You'll be aware that we've been offering business support for a number of years through InkyHive, our third-party provider, who have also been providing for us some specific COVID-related support, but also through the recovery of the High Street Safely Fund. We have procured digital islands, so my colleague Gavin, who's on the call today, and talk a little bit more about it in a moment, to provide between now and the end of March a set of tailored bespoke support for essentially retail businesses on the high street and neighbourhood shopping areas that have been most significantly impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. And we'll be looking at a series of support measures during that time, and a lot of work has already started, and Gavin will update on that. But we're looking to engage 750 businesses in this process. Gavin's team has set up a dedicated website and online portal that I'm sure he'll talk about. There'll be a series of one-to-one business support interventions as part of the programme, a series of webinars as well, and a number of case studies coming out at the end of the process that will all be around sort of best practice and benchmarking to support the next steps forward. So without stealing any further thunder from Gavin, I'll hand over to him to sort of add to what I've said already. Thank you.
Yes, classic non-unmute. Thanks very much, Andrew. Thank you, Paul and Winchester Bid Forum. I'm going to try and share the screen. Hopefully, that will take you over there, and hopefully you are seeing high streets of Winchester district and a recognisable clock. Good. So essentially what we've done through winning the tender that Andrew was just talking about, we set up what we're now referring to as the High Streets of Winchester District Business Support Club. And really, it's a website as the gateway into a range of different services. And obviously, this starts from a kind of a COVID safety or post-COVID perspective. But I think one of the things that's really important to emphasize is that the COVID safety element of what we're doing is just one aspect of the support. That these slides and the graphics that you see here are taken from the website, and essentially each area represents a particular domain specialism, an area which you can go into, and there will be a number of these. There are 4 areas that are available now, and there'll be a number that will be added over the next 2 or 3 weeks. So Yes, we've got a specialist in COVID safety who can provide help and advice to people around their own particular circumstances, and they can also talk to you about procuring whether it's PPE or cleaning materials at a reasonable rate, because there have been some rather sad stories of vendors trying to sell pieces of equipment at highly inflated rates over and above what you should really be paying for things. In addition to that, we have Paul, who is our retail recovery specialist, and really can talk about business issues for businesses who are looking either at new revenue streams or are looking to try to understand how they might be able to keep the business going if it's in that kind of situation, and whether that's around finances, whether it's sourcing new revenue into the business or investment into the business. Paul will be able to go through that kind of topic with you. We're also running a number of sessions on digital marketing and also special sessions on e-commerce. So we have a small team of specialists who are ready here to help provide support to local businesses on the high streets. And I know Andrew referred to it as retail. I like to extend that definition a little bit in terms of it being any business that is based on the high street that has a shop frontage that people would go into. So you know, it may be that you're a coffee shop, or you know, you're a cafe, or you know, essentially if you have got a shop frontage on the high street or just off the high street or in a neighborhood shopping area anywhere across the district, not just within the city of Winchester, then we're open to try and help and support you as a business. So the subject areas that we're focusing on, I mentioned the first few of those, of COVID-19 safety, retail business recovery, e-commerce and digital marketing. We also have a section on well-being, being aware that, I mean, everybody is finding it quite challenging, but actually if you're running a small independent business, it can be quite a lonely operation, regardless of the fact that we're all locked down and that many businesses are closed, and the financial challenges that may well be bringing, but that brings a lot of stress. So we will be running a session which should be within the next couple of weeks, that will be available within the platform, taking through a number of steps and advice from Suzanne Green, who's someone I've worked with over the past year, providing a lot of help to individuals and businesses. And also carbon reduction. And again, this is perhaps secondary to the overall purpose of what we're offering, but is there as a resource to help people think about carbon reduction and reducing waste as individual businesses. And then number 7 on that list, which is to be confirmed, the reason for having that is because one of the things that we've committed to is saying we're going to listen to what businesses really want, and we're open to taking on your suggestions. So for example, I was contacted this afternoon by somebody who said that they were looking at setting up a new fresh food service, something they hadn't done before, and they wanted to get some advice from someone to do with trading standards. So I'm now in touch with somebody from trading standards, and we will set up a session specifically on that subject, which isn't just for them. It's not a one-to-one session specific with them. It will be an open Ask the Expert kind of session where anyone can join that, but clearly that particular individual will make a point of coming along to that session. I may well be the only person there, who knows, but we make it available to a range of people. So the way in which the content is organized is through the platform, and I will give you the website address at the end. I've also put it into the chat. So as Andrew said, you know, there will be a range of webinars. There is the option to have one-to-one meetings with some of the domain specialists. And every week we're organizing 3, sometimes 4 Ask the Expert sessions. And I think when we respond to the bids, sometimes we describe them as workshops and sometimes we describe them as specialist sessions. I don't think the format is that fixed. Essentially, they're scheduled periods of time where we will have a topic that is available for discussion, and it will be led by an expert. And if people come along into that session, which will be on Zoom, then you can come along, ask questions, have a conversation about that particular area. There will be some pre-recorded training material as well, which people can access. And we're also looking to try and stimulate conversation and debate. We've got a range of local sections where we're trying to encourage people to have kind of local debate with a particular town, as well as just Winchester. As I say, we're across the whole district. So the cost to individuals is free, and there's no sign-up cost. It's been funded through as well as sponsors along the bottom, starting with the ERDF, European Regional Development Fund, Her Majesty's Government, who supported through the Reopening the High Streets Fund, and that gets channeled through Winchester District Council, and then we're the delivery partner for this particular project. So what is the catch, I ask you here? No, maybe not. But essentially, there aren't really any catches. You have to be a business based or in or on or near a shopping area. As I said before, it is a little bit more, a little bit wider than just retail. You do need to have an involvement with the high street in terms of a shop frontage of some kind. If you're a firm of accountants with offices above a shop, then no, I'm afraid that this is not for you. It is about those kind of consumer facing businesses. Your business does need to be based in the district, and you have to register on the website, and this is the website address. If you kind of, I know it's quite long, but if you sort of say High Street Winchester District, Thinkific is the third-party platform that we'll be using, .com. So yeah, I have put that in the chat, so you've got it hopefully as a little bit more digestible format. There is another website, which is a kind of landing page, which is a subdomain of Winchester Council's website. So it's High Street singular.winchester.gov.uk, which perhaps is more accessible. And from there, you can link on to the main site. Feel free to email me, and I also put my phone number in the chat. So that's me giving you a whistle-stop tour, which I now can't seem to stop sharing. Oh, yes, I can. There, and I'm back. Thank you very much. If there's any questions.
Thank you, Gavin and Andrew. There are a few questions in the chat, so we'll have a look at those. And then if anyone else has any further ones, then please do unmute and feel free to ask. So we've got one from Larry Lynch, from Professor Larry Lynch from Winchester School of Art, asking about training in e-commerce, web development, and digital marketing for independent business. So there could be some connections there with the School of Art. And then we've got a question, how do you envisage, this is for the virtual high street, Andrew, so this will be a question for you. How do you envisage the fees will be after the first 6 months, which are funded through the council and the government?
In terms of that, it depends on obviously the successful bidder as part of the procurement process. In terms of the specification that we're putting together for that procurement process, we are asking for the bidder to be upfront in terms of the ongoing costs for any businesses that do work on that platform beyond the 6 months. It will be, from what I can see from the organisations and the platforms and the providers I've spoken to at the moment, it'll be around transaction fees, and it will be around delivery charges, which in the main will be passed on to the consumer. Transaction fees seem to range between sort of 4% and 10%, and as part of the procurement process, when we are weighting and measuring the cost of the service versus the value of the service, those are the sorts of things that we will be taking into consideration during that process through the procurement period before we actually confirm which platform the City Council would like to work with. But most definitely, It will be very transparent for businesses at the outset. So what we do not want to happen is we get to the end of 6 months, then suddenly everyone falls away because they've suddenly got a whole load of charges that they weren't expecting. And equally, we want to ensure that the platform has worked really well in the first 6 months, so so businesses feel comfortable and convinced that this is a good business opportunity for them, and also consumers are finding the website and the platform effective and helpful for when they're making their buying decisions as well.
Thanks very much, Andrew. And a question for Gavin, thinking about the different sectors that you mentioned that you'd be able to support through the service. Would you be able to support restaurants and bars through the service as part of the offer?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, drinking bars, nail bars, barbers, all kind of that form. I mean, essentially, I think of it as in terms of if there is a shop frontage. I mean, you know, I know there's places which, you know, there's a sort of a company that provides repairs to boilers, and they have a shop frontage, you know, so they're on the high street. If you can walk in there and make an appointment or talk to someone or purchase something, then absolutely, it doesn't matter what the nature of that business is. And you know, I would encourage people to, you know, go to the website, have a look, and, you know, register your interest, and, you know, through that you'll be able to book a one-to-one appointment either with Paul or with Steve to talk about either the COVID side or the business side, and then, you know, a whole raft of support around, you know, whether you want to talk about digital marketing campaigns, or whether it's, if you're outside of the program that Andrew is talking about with e-commerce. You know, I know there is interest at the moment. A lot of people are looking at setting up e-commerce or just improving the e-commerce offer they have now, that we've got, you know, somebody who's a specialist in that area who's there for an hour or so every week, willing to answer questions and talk to you about your specific issues. So, you know, all of that is there. I just checked on my email and nobody has signed up in the last 30 minutes, which is disappointing. But I am hoping that you all will have signed up before the end of the evening, and that I would also ask that you would pass on the website to any other business owners that you think would find it useful, because as Andrew has indicated, this is something that we've done at pace in terms of getting the service together and pulling it together, and partly that's because we're committed to delivering the support, the meetings, before the end of March. And so, you know, there's a great deal of help and activity that's there. The service will remain. We're not going to close down the website. It will remain, and the content will remain, but the amount of live and one-to-one content will diminish over a period of time. So the greatest value is there at the moment, and I can tell you that there was a session held this afternoon where somebody had essentially it was a drop-in Ask the Expert session, and they had a one-to-one 45 minutes because no one else came, because the numbers are quite small at the moment. And I mean, the numbers are never going to be big. We're not expecting, you know, to get dozens and dozens of people into any one of those sessions, but the value is there. So make use of it while you can.
Thank you, Gavin. And a question that came in ahead of the forum, Andrew, and you may not know the answer, but you may do. I know it comes to the finance team at the council rather than the economy team. But we were wondering about the grant for 2nd to 25th of December, the local restrictions support grant open for businesses that were open but affected by the tier 2 restrictions in December. And we were awaiting some information to go onto the council website. I was just wondering if we had any news on the time frame on that.
I think if that hasn't been already sorted, it is imminently sorted. Imminently will be sorted. Terry Horner, as you quite rightly say, it sits within our revenue and benefits service, and that is something that her team have been working actively on. So what I'll do is I'll follow that up with her, and Paul, I'll get her to give you an update that you can pass on to bid colleagues.
Thanks very much. And Larry Lynch, if you're here, I wasn't sure if you wanted to make any comments following what you put in the chat box about support for independence.
Not a great deal, because the presentation answered my question to an extent, so I was being a bit presumptive. But if there's any interest either from Digital Islands or indeed BID to explore other kinds of funding support, other kinds of inward investment to build capacity in this area, like the government UKRI Innovate knowledge transfer partnerships, for example, there is a lot of a very strong skill base in the university and in the School of Art around e-commerce, digital marketing, that kind of growth. And there are schemes from UKRI and Innovate to divert some of that capacity to not just COVID recovery, but regional economic growth more generally. And there's a real emphasis on it at the moment. So I'd be very happy if it was desirable to hook up outside with either BID as a legitimate company that could be part of a KTP, or Digital Islands, to see if there's any way in which we can generate more income to build capacity for the digital economy in Winchester.
Thanks very much. I'd definitely welcome a conversation with you, Larry.
Okay, let's do that. Great. I look forward to it, Paul. Cheers.
Any other questions before we move on to the next presentation? Okay, well, we'll move on to our next presentation, which is an update on Central Winchester regeneration with the head of programme, Varian Lyons. So I'll hand over to Varian now. Thank you, Varian.
We've recently held a consultation on the Central Winchester development proposals, which many of you will have been following the story for some time, I know. So if you've taken the time to comment, thank you very much. What I want to do this evening is to give you a bit of an update on what we did and what the reach was, and then the key comments and the key themes that started to come back into us. Just as a headline, we had over 300 individual responses to the consultation through our formal citizen space mechanism to respond, which is over 100 more than we had for the SPD. So we've built on that. And as those of you that actually entered any comments into that, there are 12 or 13 questions plus a box for anyone to write whatever they wanted to after that. So we had over 4,000 individual comments to go through. So you'll see from the presentation that I'm going to share with you now, we are taking a little bit longer than we'd hoped to get through those, but the response has been absolutely fantastic. So what I want to do tonight, again, there we go, is as I say, just recap on what we've been doing, and then talk you a little bit about what we did, what the feedback was, and to let you know where we're headed next. So you can see from this slide, there's an awful lot of work that we've been doing since the adoption of the SPD back in 2018. You'll be relieved to hear I'm not going to go through each individual action that we've got on the timeline, but it's just to try and get through and get across to everyone that there's an awful lot of things going on in the background. You may not see or hear the day-to-day things that we're doing, but you can see here back at 2018 in the summer, the SPD was adopted following a huge engagement session and period of consultation. And I'm
not sure you can see your slides, Varian, so I'll try and share them through my machine. Okay. And if you want to just tell me when to flick through them, then I'll do that. So I'll share them on my screen now, and we'll see if that works for everyone. Right, so I've just put the slides up now, if everyone can see this.
Brilliant.
Can everyone see that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Brilliant, thank you.
Okay, so we whiz on to the timeline, Paul. That would be great. There we go. So yes, so sorry. So you can see here from this timeline, back in 2018, we adopted the SPD. A lot of work been going on in the background to get us from what essentially is planning guidance through to some actual proposals that can be developed on site. So literally turning from planning guidance into a development proposal. So You can see there, for some of this we've already shared with you in public. We've taken some extracts from our roadmap review, understanding the competitive positioning, the strengths and the weaknesses of Winchester. I presented to you as a forum a couple of times on our progress. We've had open forums. We've done a lot of viability testing. We've tested sort of the journey so far through our 3 scenarios. And where we're at now is we've just come to the end of the consultation period. It closed on the 12th of January. As I was saying, we've had over 4,000 individual comments to go through. So we are working through that at the moment. And you can see from this timeline that we had an open forum a couple of weeks back where we started to share some of that feedback. We were hoping to have another open forum to share the outcomes of that in the next couple of weeks, and then go to a cabinet in March with the sort of definitive answer on how we're going to be delivering Central Winchester. You'll see as we go through in a minute, we're taking our time a little bit around that now, because some of the comments that were coming in really need some time to consider. So Paul, if you can flick to the next slide. What we did was, again, I'll whiz through these quite quickly. As a recap of the things that we did, we've had to do things differently, as we all have at the moment, and we've not done a consultation without having a physical presence before. So we did the majority online and virtually, but we also had a nod to those that aren't maybe sort of as LinkedIn and digitally aware as the rest of us. And we did some adverts in the papers. We had some physical posters, and we also had hard copies of all the consultation documents, so that anyone that couldn't get online or didn't feel comfortable online could also take part in the consultation. So you've probably been bombarded with various different media to let you know that was happening. And if you look at the next slide, you can see there what we ended up doing. So for those of you that had the chance to visit the virtual consultation, the virtual exhibition room, it looked really good. And we had nearly 3,000 unique individual visits that interacted with that particular exhibition room. So they clicked on things, they read things, looked at some of the documents online, and then the portion of those then went through to fill out the feedback form. We also did a social media campaign, which is something we as a council hadn't done before in any great way. We do regular posts on our Facebook page and some of the other Twitter feeds that we have, but we've not done before a campaign on social media. That reached nearly 500,000 people, and we went not just in Winchester City itself, but across the district, and also slightly further afield in the surrounding towns. So, for example, we went out all across Hampshire, we did Andover, we did Basingstoke. So we did some targeted hits around through the social media just to see what result we had. And throughout that, we had nearly 3,500 individual engagements with us. And again, it's either a like or a click on a link going through to another more information, or commenting. So for something that we've not done before, that was actually quite encouraging for us, because also we'll go on to in a minute, it was targeting a much younger age group, which again, for us as a council, we hadn't particularly done before. We also did more of the traditional online sessions. Again, I know some of you took part in some of those. We did a dedicated one for the bid members. We did a dedicated one for City of Winchester Trust and various other key stakeholder groups. We talked to the Hampshire Cultural Trust. So we had 44 separate stakeholders engage with us that way, and we also did some open online sessions where anyone could register. We did 4 of those, and we had about 20 to 25 people taking part on each one. So in total, we've actually got quite a lot of feedback and engagement on some of this stuff that we've been doing. And you can see there 336 completed questionnaires. So that's a more traditional route where people click on the citizen space and fill out the questionnaire. So whizzing on to the next slide, it's just a little bit which we're just starting to get now some of the analytics through and starting to analyse some of the data that we've got from the consultation. You can see here that from those that went through to engage with our virtual exhibition, this is the sort of split of age range. So the 7% there and the 22% you can see there are under the age of 34. And for those of you that have been following Central Winchester for a while, you'll know that that's really where we're targeting the development for Central Winchester, to retain that young talent that we've got in the city. There's very limited opportunities for them to live, work and play in Winchester. So we are targeting the Central Winchester development site towards that age group. We're not excluding everybody else, of course we aren't, but there is a gap and we do want to try and attract those young people. And you can see that nearly 30% of those that went through to the exhibition was of our target age group, and that for us was really encouraging. So we were managing to get through to people. And you can see also then that the traditional sort of age range is also then fed through. But again, we were quite encouraged by that. And if you then look at the next slide, this is just a little bit more information about the sorts of things that we did on social media. Like I said, we reached nearly 500,000 people through our social media posts. 60% of those were in our sort of peak target group of the under 34s. And of those that engaged with us, as I said, through likes or sort of emojis or clicks, nearly 70% of those were that age group up to the 34. So again, really quite encouraging that in tandem with the more traditional approach of where the sort of slightly older age groups were engaging with us via our consultation and our feedback form, we were getting through to the youngsters as well to hear their views. Much more instant, much more sort of short and snappy, but we were getting there. And we also did some polls on Twitter, and you can see an example there of the sort of thing we did on Twitter to try and again engage and get feedback from that target group that wouldn't necessarily want to sit through and click through and enter all the information that we were asking for via Citizen Space. So again, we were quite pleased with that. Moving on to the next slide, some of the key themes that started to come back. And what I'll do is, before I go on to that, we've literally just today, so I haven't had the chance to add them into here, compare those statistics, sort of the 60 to 70% of engagement on social media with the under 34s. Of those that filled out the feedback form on Citizen Space, of those that under 34s, only 9% of the respondents were of that age group. So you can see there's a huge disparity between the people we're getting through the social media and the age group that we're targeting through the more traditional routes. So it's really added an extra layer of sort of confidence for us that we can go out and use that again. 60 to 70% engaging with us on social media and 9% engaging with us through the more traditional route of that target age range. So it's really, really quite interesting to see how that's working out. There is a lot more information we want to gather from that, but it's just to give you the heads up. That's the way that we're going to be looking to include those age groups going forward. So what are the key themes that did come back? So the themes actually also then related to the consultation material that was in the virtual exhibition. So the boards were themed, and the questions and the feedback has been themed in the same way. So not surprisingly, really, huge support for affordable housing. We all know the difficulties of youngsters and key workers that are finding somewhere to afford to live in the city centre. So there's huge support for us to provide affordable, suitable living accommodation for that sort of up to 34-year-olds. And also one of the things that came out from that is also saying, please, can we give the locals a chance? It's the local youngsters and the local key workers that need that opportunity. So can we please think about how we do that? Another key theme that came out from that was the design. And I think the design goes right through all the different themes that have started to come through. People are really interested in having a say, or at least having some sort of information on how the design of these things will start to come forward when we start the more detailed design on things. And again, a lot of debate and a lot of support actually for us trying different sorts of residential units to offer, be it a build to rent offering, be it a sort of trying out maybe co-living, whereby it's sort of like a next step on from university halls of residence almost in student living. The sort of next step between having your own place would maybe do something along the co-living front, which is, you know, your own space, but a lot of communal space. in line with what co-working is turning out to be. So could we try that? A lot of discussion and a lot of support for us trying different things, but obviously there is comment also around how does this affect the viability. So lots for us to consider there. With regard to the next bracket, which is workspace, huge support for the approach that we're looking to take for Central Winchester, be it creative, independent, something different. So the majority of people that entered a comment around the workspace was, we really like the idea of this. And this came through loud and clear on our social media as well with that younger age group. And I think somewhere in the region of 80% of those that we got to on social media of our age group, our target age group of up to 34, 80% plus supported that. And even sort of 40 to 50% of the more traditional age groups also supported that. So a really good level of evidence there for us to push on and crack on with. We do want and are fully committed to doing the Creative Hub at King's Walk, however we deliver that. And I think we'll come on to that in a minute. I think the key topics of conversation around that was just make sure, obviously, if you're targeting that sort of independent, quirky maker space, please obviously make sure that the rents and the rates and the terms of occupation reflect the flexible nature of the people that will want to take that space up. So again, a lot for us to consider there. So flexibility, affordability, make sure that the rents and the terms suit the target market, but huge support for that. Moving on to the next slide, Paul, I think we've then got retail, heritage and retail, culture and leisure. Again, along the same vein as the workspace and the creative workspaces, again, huge support for concentrating and building on the leisure and the culture and the retail offer that we've already got in the centre of Winchester and in the city, wider city. We're at pains to say we're not looking to compete with what we've already got. We're looking to bring an additional offer and to complement what we've already got in Winchester. Some of you may know that we are still liaising quite closely with Hampshire Cultural Trust to understand what their cultural offer and what their attraction is and how they see their future in the city of Winchester, so that we can develop our ideas in tandem, because we do very much still aim to incorporate that element of culture. But obviously that has now shifted slightly from the traditional sort of Anglo-Saxon museum. It's morphing and changing with the opportunities that I guess COVID has had to force us to accept more quickly. You know, what can we do that's sort of robust and resilient and exciting as we move forward, that encapsulates that cultural offer. So we're working with Hampshire Cultural Trust. We're also looking to as I say, flex the offer that we've got and extend, so that we're not just sort of a 9 to 5 high street, that what we've got in central Winchester then extends that sort of activity time into the evening to attract more people, to extend their stay in Winchester, give people an additional area to go and visit after the sort of more traditional high street type shops have closed. So we're trying to work and complement what we've got. Some people did say that, are you really putting retail in? Should that not sit in the high streets? We still think there is a need for some retail, but it's the smaller, sort of more flexible, aimed at more independent, aimed at something slightly different. We don't want to tie people in to the 5-year lease with upward only rent reviews. So we are looking to do something slightly different. So we're encouraged, so far so good on the development proposals. Huge support all around. The next slide is about movement, and as you are not going to be surprised, huge debate around the pros and cons of moving the buses to on-street provision as opposed to having a dedicated bus hub. 50-50 split on that one. You know, that's a lot of work that we're doing on that at the moment to understand really what the best option is around buses. Also quite strong and quite conflicting views around the aspiration to reduce the amount of vehicles in the city centre. There's a really fine balance on this, and we're really aware of that, but the movement strategy is ongoing. They aim also through that to reduce the vehicles that are coming into the city centre. But we are also really aware that if you want to keep the city centre vibrant and you want to attract people and you want to make it easy for people to come into the centre, you do need to think about cars still coming in, somewhere for them to park, somewhere for them to go. So there's quite a bit of work to do in conjunction with the movement strategy to understand getting the right balance for making it easy for people to come in, but not sort of encouraging people to jump into their car at the first option. So quite a lot of debate around that. I think where we're talking, particularly around the residential offer, it's a question of, you know, are we having residential with parking? Should we be having residential in the city centre without parking? So there's a lot of viability to have a look at that, because obviously people moving into the city centre won't necessarily expect parking, but it's more profitable if you provide parking spaces with any dwellings. So we're working through the implications of what that might mean at the moment, taking into account the feedback that we've had. Unsurprisingly, huge support for the active travel, which is the cycling and the walking, helping to reduce the carbon emissions and getting people into that active, more healthy lifestyle. So a lot for us to think about there. Moving on to public spaces, huge support again for the green space and the waterways. People really liked the ideas of incorporating water. So rather than trying to keep the floods back and keeping the water out, how can we capture some of that water and direct it to a good use? So rain gardens, you know, water channels, water features. So that's something that we will be looking to build in as the plans and as the development and the more detailed design comes forward. Moving on again to the sustainability, again, should we be looking to exceed our targets, not just hit them? That was quite a large topic of conversation. And again, there are pros and cons for that with regards to viability and how realistic that is. For those of you that have followed Winchester, central Winchester, the site is a challenging site. So again, it's all a question of getting that balance right as we start to bring forward slightly more detailed plans. But again, here you can see strong support for water and opening up those waterways. Delivery approach. Now, this was where we've had the most comments and quite a lot of concern. So we're being upfront about that, and we're saying, okay, the emerging themes or the emerging preferred approach as we were going into the consultation was we are asking an awful lot from Central Winchester. We want top quality public realm. We want a top quality bus facility. We want, you know, exceptional, outstanding design. We want a whole vibrant mix of uses. We want culture in there. We want outside space. So for what actually is quite a compact development site, we are asking an awful lot of it. So as we were coming into the consultation, in order to take advantage of some of the great mixed use developers that are out there, the thinking was that actually the best way to secure the mix of uses that we want, the cohesive approach, the quality that we want, and the joined up nature of what we want, there are really great developers out there that could do everything for us on a phased approach with that sort of nod to Winchester-ness. So there'd be different looks and feels to it coming on at different times. Understandably, there's a lot of concern out there because it obviously brings back memories of Silver Hill and where we got to last time as soon as we start talking about a single development partner through a development agreement across the whole site. So what we're doing at the moment is we are going through all of those comments and realizing that we probably need to give that a little bit more thought. Is that the right option? So we're not able to come back to you at this point and say we're pressing on with this, we're doing that, because there is a lot of concern around how we're going to deliver it. Some people just want it delivered and they don't mind, but those that do feel quite strongly about it. So if we can move on, is there one more slide after this? Yeah, so if we can move on sort of past that, one of the other key things that came out was actually people were expecting a bit more detail. They thought, where are the plans? Where are the detailed designs? You know, we were expecting to see more at this stage. And I think what we wanted to do and what we intend to continue doing is to go step by step through this process so that we take everyone with us and we get people to understand the different steps that we're taking. Had we, for example, come back at this stage with a worked up design for the central Winchester site with guidance on design and building heights and what this bench was going to look like, we'd get an element of pushback on that as well, saying, well, what's the point in you consulting us? You've already made your decision. So what we're doing is trying to take a step-by-step approach and taking people along with us so that you understand where the development proposals are headed. So moving on to the next slide, there's a lot of information there. I will make sure that these are available should anyone want them. But I think what we're still doing now is, rather than coming back to you in February and March to say, this is what we're going to be doing, you know, this is how we're going to deliver it, and this is the timescales. There is broad support for the development proposal. So I think probably that's something we will look to crystallise in March. But what we do want to do is to continue to analyse that feedback, because it's on some crucial points around delivery, around transport, around buses, and we want to get it right. So we're taking a little bit longer to analyse what's come back. And what we're going to be doing is having a cabinet session now in March, which will feed back again a lot of this information that I've shared with you tonight, but also then what we're going to do to actually start delivering this and what we can do and what needs to take slightly longer. So there's a lot to talk about, and I don't want to keep you here longer than we have to, but that's our timing. And from March onwards, when we're going to be sort of really pulling together and drafting the business cases, the rationale, the decision-making process, and how we're going to be delivering elements of this, I think then we'll be able to come back with some clearer steps. But we did want to make sure that we gave all those comments that came in due consideration before we decided. So I think that's the last slide. Happy to take any questions that you've got. And Paul, thank you for sharing that. Much appreciated.
Thanks very much indeed, Varian. So yeah, any questions at all, feel free to unmute and ask, or to put them in the chat, and we'll read them out for Varian.
Yeah, Paul, I've got one question. Can't hear you, but hopefully everybody else can hear. Is there any provision in all of that for hotel accommodation across various categories?
Yeah, what we're doing actually is looking at part of the leisure and part of the creative hub. We're starting out looking at what we can deliver in some of the vacant space that's already there to sort of kickstart that creative quarter. And then gradually, as the development starts to take hold and take shape, we have done a hotel feasibility study with regards to look at what the market is in Winchester already, how we could complement that, what the capacity there is at the moment for an extra hotel. And we have factored that into some of the proposals. So looking back at the consultation, if you want to look back at the website that shows the sort of thinking around the site uses, you'll see there that potentially there is a hotel that we could incorporate into the site.
Okay, because that would be very good news, because what we want to try and do, I think, is to encourage people not to visit Winchester for the day, but actually to spend 1, 2, maybe 3 nights, spend money, you know, in all the various retail outlets, whether they're food, leisure, hospitality, and, you know, capture the money, not just sort of have them come in and flip out again. Yeah. And, you know, and try and provide things for them to do beyond just sort of wandering around Winchester and all this fabulous attractions, but maybe take a bike ride into the South Downs. You know, there's so much to do, and there's a huge city called London, which is less than an hour's drive away, so we should be trying to capture as much as we can from there as well. Yeah, it makes good commercial sense.
Absolutely agreed. And again, it's part of adding to that, you know, adding to the experience that people already get in Winchester. What will make them stay that extra night? Well, we need to provide space for them to stay and something to make them stay sort of activity wise. People come now for the experience. They don't just come to shop or to eat. They want an experience. So that's all part and parcel of how we wrap up the culture and the creative in the centre. Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
You're You're welcome.
We've got a question coming on the chat which says, what is Cabinet likely to be asked to agree in March in general terms?
At the moment, we're working through where we're going with that. I can't preempt what we're going to be putting into the Cabinet paper. What I can say is that we will be looking to show signs of progress. We want to be able to say more clearly what's happening when, and we want to be able to sort of show that we're making a start and get on with it. So I can't actually preempt what's coming out. We are still working through it with Cabinet. We've got a couple of sessions coming up over the next couple of weeks, but rest assured it will be coming out soon because Cabinet is on the 10th of March. And for those of you that know our processes, that means our Cabinet report is likely to be published around about the 2nd or the 3rd of March. So we're finalising what we're going to be going to Cabinet with over the next couple of weeks, ready to share that in public the first couple of days in March.
Thanks, Varian. Any further questions at all? There's no more in the chat, so I'll just give it a moment to see if anyone else has anything they'd like to ask. Okay, well, I'll take this opportunity then to say thank you very much indeed to Varian and Andrew and Gavin for their presentations. Thanks so much for everyone for joining us. We've got lots of people on the call today and it's really, really great to see your faces, but we really look forward to when we can actually see you in person at your businesses open again, and we're all looking forward to that day. So hang in there, and if there's anything we can do call us, contact us on social media, phone, email, and we'll send out the slides in our next e-news, which will come out on Thursday of next week, and also the video from this evening. And so if there's anyone you think should be watching this and might be interested in some of the presentations, this will go up onto our YouTube channel tomorrow morning. So thanks very much again everyone for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks very much indeed.